by the goons on the other side. We don't do that to them. They've done that to a lot of our people. They've done it for 4 years. And it's outrageous that it's tolerated, and it's tolerated because you condone it in the press, and you don't cover it, and you don't condemn it. And it shouldn't happen to a Republican or a Democrat. A lawyer shouldn't have to withdraw from a case because he's representing the President of the United States. There are many more affidavits here. I'd like to read them all to you, but I don't have the time. You should have had the time and energy to go look for them. That's your job. Like it's my job to defend the president and to represent the president. It's your job to read these things and not falsely report that there's no evidence. Do you know how?
America's crazy uncle, Rudy Giuliani. So the president of the United States has refused to concede despite the fact that it seems to be pretty clear that he lost this race. Trump was able to get 10.1 million more votes. And like I've said, if it wasn't for the mail-in ballots, it is likely that Trump, probably, likely, potentially, might have won this race. But he didn't win this race. Until there's something else, some more bang for the buck than a gang of liars saying that he did. In this very specific situation, there's been all sorts of lawsuits that Giuliani be filed, including one in Michigan and including one in Pennsylvania. Now, the lawsuit in Michigan apparently has been torched. But there's still this focus in Pennsylvania. There's also this focus on electors, meaning trying to get or confuse the electors that go in order to certify the vote tallies, meaning they're trying to interrupt the mechanisms that will transition over to a Joe Biden, and doing this in the various states. Well, in contests, Michigan, but specifically for this video, Pennsylvania. If you remember, there was a big huffafaloo in Michigan when certain, let's say the Board of Canvassers in Wayne County, refused to certify the results. Well, eventually they rescinded that refusal to recertify, and they certified the results. And then they changed around and rescinded certification of the results. Or at least they tried to, or they wanted to. There's no legal mechanism for them to rescind it, especially since the deadline has already passed. So it seems like the results in Michigan are going through. From the standpoint of Pennsylvania, there is a lawsuit that is going on right now, or at the very least was going on yesterday. I would imagine it's still occurring. That basically Giuliani, fighting for Trump, made the argument that the court should reward or turn over the election to Donald Trump. Joe Biden won Pennsylvania by more than 80,000 votes. And yet Giuliani is standing in front of the judge and is basically straight up telling him, asking him, petitioning in court to overturn the will of the voters in Pennsylvania and give the election to Donald Trump. It's an astonishing statement. That press conference, that hysterical, unhinged press conference that Giuliani was throwing out there. They were using Hugo Chavez's dead ghost as part of evidence, talking about the communists in Venezuela and China were conspiring to get Joe Biden elected. Utterly ludicrous. If you're going to put those affidavits out, to be waving those affidavits in the air, then you need to put them in a court of law and have some judge, some court say, yes, there's credibility to this. Because the fact of the matter is, nobody in your administration has any. And the claims of this stuff with Venezuela and Cuba and all of this other stuff just comes across as harebrained conspiracy theories. Until there's something there, there's nothing there. And right now, he's in court trying to make the argument that there is a there to it. I'm going to go over this very specific case in Pennsylvania and the argument that Rudy Giuliani is making. And again, this straight up request for them to throw out the results of Pennsylvania and award it to the President of the United States. Outrageous. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you dig this content, please like, share, and subscribe. You can always support this content through PayPal or patron. This content is brought to you by you, and I appreciate you the opportunity for allowing me to do so. So just to be clear, Joe Biden was called, Pennsylvania was called for Joe Biden. Pennsylvania was called for Joe Biden by more than 80,000 votes. Now, what they're asking for is basically to overturn the election results. Now, this is Business Insider. So right here, in a court filing by Rudy Giuliani and Mark Sigari, the two remaining attorneys in the case, everyone else quit. The campaign asked for the judge to hand over Pennsylvania electors. Ultimately, plaintiffs will seek the remedy of Trump being declared the winner of the legal votes cast in Pennsylvania in the 2020 general election and thus the recipient of Pennsylvania's electors. They wrote, legal votes cast. They're trying to say that the mail-in ballots were to some degree invalid. And as such, the ones that are valid are the ones that voted for Trump. And as such, Donald Trump should be declared winner of Pennsylvania and those electors should be handed over to Trump. The question becomes, what do you have to justify such a position like this? And the judge, who's apparently listened to this, was listening with a certain degree of, this is BS-ness. You're asking this court to invalidate more than 6.8 million votes, thereby disenfranchising every single voter in the Commonwealth. Now, this is Judge Brand. Brand is the one who was basically overseeing this case. Can you tell me how this result can possibly be justified? All of these people came out to vote. All of these people came out to vote legally in the way that they were allowed to do so. You're basically saying that I should get rid of all of these votes from all of these people and overturn the election and give it to somebody that didn't win. How do you expect me to justify a ruling like that? So right here, the filing accompanied a new third version of the federal lawsuit the campaign filed in addition to stop the state from certifying its election results. They're working on multiple tracks. One case, Trump is talking to various legislators in the state to try to get them to back his position. In another case, you have lawsuits. And, the wild part about this is that they are not showing anything to justify what they're trying to get to accomplish. Meaning they're trying to gum up the works. It's not working legally. At the very least, it doesn't seem to be working illegally. So now they're going to the electors and the legislators themselves. I know it typically seems like choosing a president is almost automatic. The guy wins, the other guy concedes, all these mechanisms takes place. But the reality of it is there are interlocking joints. There are things that need to take place that require actions and will. And if the will is not necessarily to do those things, you end up with difficulties. The electors is one of those weak points. The courts, to some degree, are one of those weak points. Also, there's elements of the government in and of itself that are elements of those weak points, that if those things don't kick into play, the issue of transition becomes that much more difficult to pull off. I gotta be honest. This seems like a long shot. This is a bit of a Hail Mary. And everything that I've read up to this point has basically made that point across that much more, that this is basically a Hail Mary. In regards to the certification of the results in other counties, especially looking at Michigan right now, you're basically seeing Trump openly petition for these various legislatures to gum up the works. He's doing it right now in Michigan. And we'll see if this bears any fruit. Right now, this is a grotesque long shot. Like the idea that a judge is going to overturn, yes, they did it in Gore v. Bush, but it doesn't feel like that here. Like this, Trump doesn't seem to have the institutional allegiance, nor does he have anything more. Meaning, you may have people who may optically do it, because those people are still in politics, and the president casts a very long shadow Even if the president loses, there are going to be people that remember who stood by Trump in his pursuit of this. And so those people might not necessarily want to set themselves on fire for Trump, but what they will do is make it look as if they're standing by him. They will give him the time of day. They will listen to him. They will put out statements saying the president should get his court day in court. The president should get his recounts. They would do all that. But whether or not they would set themselves on fire is a different story. What happened in Michigan? You had the board of canvassers, 2 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and initially they balked. And they say there are discrepancies. We don't necessarily want to sign off on this. A deal was made, in which case they immediately changed around and they signed off, certifying the results. But what happened after? Then they turn around and say, okay, we want to rescind it. And then they write a letter saying we want to rescind it. But there is no mechanism to rescind it. So basically, you ended up with a situation of people standing beside Trump without really standing beside Trump. Especially if those people are still in politics and those people have aspirations for, let's say, federal office or maybe some other kind of state office. The last thing, you want to put yourself in a situation where it seems like you undermine the president. Think about Sanders for the moment and think about the fervor that people loved Sanders back in 2016. What happened when it seemed like Sanders was betrayed? How do people in the Sanders camp think of Elizabeth Warren? And think about that from the standpoint of the people who are standing by Trump and not standing by Trump, and that the people who are full-bore Trump supporters will remember those names. The point I'm trying to make here is from an optics standpoint, you have a lot of people that don't necessarily want to set themselves on fire for Donald Trump, but at the very least want to appear to be heating up. I think that's what you're getting with some of this stuff. It's unclear. I don't necessarily think it's in the best interest of the country at all, in fact. Having this notion where there's a fight over who's sovereign or who's in charge, it sows doubt. This political warfare that has taken place, where you have a Russiagate scenario, where you have basically Democrats saying that the Russians attacked democracy, destroyed American democracy, and installed Trump in that office, has this overt effect of delegitimizing the fact that Trump won. He's president, but he's president with a quotation mark around it. Well, the same thing is basically taking place with Joe Biden, where you're going to have a huge number of people in the population that believe Joe Biden cheated in order to get in that office. Even if Donald Trump leaves, he's not going to concede. I don't think he is. He's going to leave saying he was cheated. And you're going to get a large segment, tens of millions of people believing it to be true. This is a race to the bottom. And the question becomes, how long can American, representative government withstand this sort of assault by both parties on the legitimacy and the credibility of the institutions that prop it up? Yeah, I'll leave it here. I am uncertain where this goes, but it doesn't necessarily seem like it goes anywhere good. I'm going to say like, share, and subscribe. I have several videos. That's why I'm kind of going through these real quick, and I want to get through several because there's right much news that's going on right now. I got to be honest, this looks utterly bizarre. And Giuliani waving the affidavits around and all of this other stuff. It seems utterly and entirely hysterical. And I don't mean in a good way. I mean unhinged way. They are basically trying to undo the election results. And on top of undoing the election results, Trump is trying to basically say, I'm the one who actually won the election. As if he actually deserves it, considering the number of people that are dying. I could show you the clip where after the task force meets, these guys walk out and people are screaming for a question because they aren't getting any questions. Trump is out there tweeting ferociously with no eye on the ball at all in the task force. He's not even pretending anymore. Well, if I'm going to be a lame duck, then fuck the public. You all can die as far as I'm concerned. Let the weak die off. And that's basically what has been taking place from the standpoint of governance since Trump lost. And you can make an argument even before. But even before, they used to be theatrics. Now, not even that. So, this is a weird political climate. These guys are fighting tooth and nail to retain a presidency to which they're incompetent to even operate. Ego. Not for the interests of the public, for their own. But I will make the point that the same thing holds true for Biden. Biden didn't run this race with the idea of what's in the best interest of the American public. He ran it, what's in the best interest of me, Joe Biden. I'm going to end it here. Smash that like button. Definitely smash that subscribe button and make sure that you guys are subscribed. And I'm going to say like, share, and subscribe. Thanks all. I'll see you guys in a few.